This is Beyond the Green Screen, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.
Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist Royal Norman, and this is Beyond the Green Screen, the First Alert Weather Team podcast. Angela Judd is with us today. Hi, Angela. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you.
Angela's going to be, I said this last year, you're going to be hopefully one of my regulars because you're the best gardener I know in the Valley. Now, I know there's a bunch of great gardeners, but you're the best one I know.
That's kind of you to say. There are a lot of really good gardeners.
Yeah, and the thing that got me hooked on Angela's stuff is that she has a YouTube channel, she has a website, Growing in the Garden, right? And Growing in the Garden is the YouTube channel too. And you gave me confidence that I could actually, because it's kind of intimidating in the desert, you gave me confidence that with the right preparation and the right attention, you can grow stuff even in the hottest part of the desert.
It's true. It's different. Gardening here is different, but it's not impossible.
Okay, so first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself. Have you been interested in gardens since you were a kid? Is this something that developed, like for me, in the last couple of years I got interested? I mean, when I was a kid, we had a garden, but I haven't gardened much since then.
No, it's interesting. A lot of people that garden have that kind of nostalgic looking back gardening. I'm not a COVID gardener. I didn't start in COVID, but no, I've always liked gardening. My earliest memories are gardening with my grandparents, and we had a garden until we moved to Arizona, though. In 2008, I didn't really have enough room for a garden. So that's when I really started to get into gardening and just learn as much as I could.
Yeah, and the first thing I can remember ever doing in Arizona gardening, we had an apartment balcony, and we put a pot out there, and we put a tomato in there, and we took care of it, and I think we diligently got 4 or 5 tomatoes. You know, those probably cost us $10 each, but it was fun, and it makes you feel kind of good that you can harvest something and then eat it.
Well, you know exactly where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what was put on it and what wasn't put on it.
Yeah, and all the love that went into it, I guess. So let's talk about, first of all, your place. Okay, so folks are going to go, they're going to hear this, going to go, I'm going to go to growinginthegarden.com and check out this YouTube thing. I look at your plants on YouTube, and you've got 6 acres, right? You've got to have, you've got 6 acres. You've got 6 acres, right?
No, it's about, with my house and pool and kids stuff, it's about 1/3 of an acre, and most of it's not garden.
Okay, so it's
an HOA lot.
It's a regular, kind of a regular, maybe a little bit larger than normal.
It's not a bad sized backyard, but it's definitely a backyard.
So it's not 6 acres. You make it look like it because there's plants and there's productivity everywhere, but it didn't start that way. And by the way, I know she was pro-COVID because when COVID started, some of the first videos I saw were Angela's videos. But so how did you start in this backyard? Obviously slowly.
All right, so we had there was some room on the side of the house. Because I had lots of kids and they were using up the rest. And so on the side of the house, there was an empty area. And I went to a square foot gardening class. I bought the square foot gardening book. And my son and I went to Home Depot, had them cut the wood for us, and we made 2 4x4 square foot beds. And I read that book, and it's so simple to follow, and so I read that, followed the instructions, and had a little bit of success, and just built from there.
Yeah, so that first year, do you remember what you planted, what kind of things you tried?
Well, I remember that I went out of town when it was supposed to be kind of getting better, and my mom texted me, and she says, there's beans, and there's and there's a sunflower, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm gone.
Yeah.
So, yes, so beans and sunflowers and things like that. Yeah, but that was definitely a learning experience, and anybody can do that. Anybody can go to Home Depot, have some wood cut, get a grow bag, fill it with soil, and and start planting. And
so that's what I wanted to do, and we've talked about that. You have a video up about getting gardeners started and encouraging people to do it, because it's fun. I'm sitting here thinking, well, how should I describe it? Because I was out yesterday, like at halftime at the Super Bowl game. I was kind of like, I don't know. So I was out clipping away and doing this and doing that. It's kind of fun to be out there, but if a person they haven't done it before, and they want to start, let's say a garden in a pot, because that's probably the easiest. What would you recommend they do? How do they do it? And what 1 or 2 or 3 plants would you start them off with?
It's a great question. So yes, grow bags are an easy way to begin. They're inexpensive. So a couple of grow bags, and I would say get the largest size that you can, because the more soil that you give your plants access to, they're going to do better. So if you have really small container, think about, maybe getting a little, even a 5-gallon bucket gives your plants enough soil.
Okay.
So that's a good way to start. Make sure you've got good soil. Right. And then plant at the right time. Because a lot of us will blame ourselves because, okay, it didn't grow, it didn't produce fruit. But if we're not planting at the right time, then that crop is not going to grow. So those things, what were we going to say then?
Well, I was going to say, because even if it's at the big box store right now, that doesn't mean I should be planting it right now.
Well, believe it or not, businesses are in it to make. They're there to make money.
Right.
And so if they have a plant, it may or may not be the right time to plant, but they want to sell it. And so it's up to us to be informed consumers and to say, okay, what's the right time to plant, and really know what we're getting, and then give our plants the best chance.
Okay. So a portion of the folks will hear this, and we're going to do some more springtime ideas, because as we record this, we're in February going into March. But so right now, what would you recommend they go out and get to try to plant?
So we have just a couple of you could tell us, but the couple of cool nights left. But really, once those nighttime temperatures are in the 50s, it's a go for warm season crops.
Okay.
And so that's when I would say a pepper plant is probably one of the easiest things to grow. Buy a transplant, pick something you like, and that's a super easy gardening for beginners thing to do.
And I read somewhere that, in fact, you know what? One of these guys that's growing one of these super hot peppers back in North Carolina, and a reporter asked him something about how hard it was. He says, peppers are like weeds. They're not hard to grow. No. You give them soil and you give them moisture and they're going to go. That's a great idea. Now, may I add, a lot of folks are going to, because I've done this. I went out and I got those hot peppers, right? And so those don't work. I mean, they work, they're hot, but guess what? You can't eat them. So it's like, get a jalapeno, get a serrano, get just green peppers, get something you're going to eat, right?
Yeah, there are so many peppers that have good flavor. If you want a little bit of heat, I think serranos, Carmens, some of those kind of mild, but still good peppers. Yeah. And then for sure, there's bell peppers. Really, that's a really easy crop. Get a couple if you want a hot and a spicy one.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Get a couple of buckets going. Yeah. So peppers for sure, no fail.
Yeah, and then if you want to add some more, I would say pick a flower and an herb. That's my easy way to get started. One vegetable, one flower, one herb. And then you've got a nice little ecosystem going. You're going to attract some beneficial insects, which are going to help you out. And you're going to have some beautiful flowers and also some herbs to put with those peppers.
Oh, that's exciting. All right. Well, there you go. So let's talk about some other crops that folks can be putting in the ground right now. Let's see. What did I ask you about? I can't even remember. Here's the thing. Angela also has a newsletter that if you sign up for, which I have, it comes once a week. Yep. So you get a bunch of ideas from there, which is very cool. So what are some of the things I can be... Okay, let me back up. I'm slowing down. Can you tell I'm excited about gardening? I did a bunch of cool crops after we talked the last time. And man, I have got lettuce and little butterball lettuce things and spinaches, and we've been putting that in our salads. Those crops are so easy over the winter. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really... Cool season gardening is so fun in Arizona. It really is the best time to garden and to start a garden. When we get into our kind of warmer and then quickly into hot temperatures, it gets a little more difficult. But it's not impossible, but those cool season crops are so good. Yeah, okay.
So what would you recommend right now? As I say, we're sort of, it doesn't freeze in the city much anymore. It probably freezes at your house still out in Mesa area, out in the outline areas. It rarely freezes at my house, and I'm sort of in the outskirts of Scottsdale. But we're getting past that time. What do we start planting? What do we think about?
So I would definitely move towards those warm season crops because things heat up quickly, right? Once winter's gone, things start to heat up. And so there's lots of different things you can plant. There's, into the cantaloupes, melons, tomatoes are a big one. Mm-hmm. If you want tomatoes this spring, you want to get them in as soon as possible. And so they have a chance to develop before it gets too hot.
Tomatoes, intermediate, or what's the other one?
Indeterminate.
Indeterminate.
Or determinate. Okay.
Yeah,
so
there you go. Yeah.
There's two different types.
Okay, so what's the difference?
The difference is how they grow.
Okay.
So a determinate tomato is going to grow a determined amount. Think of like a Roma tomato.
Yeah.
They're not going to get super large, and they're going to set a lot of fruit at the same time. And you're going to get one big crop.
Okay.
Indeterminate will just keep going and going and going. And so those are the tomatoes that you see in greenhouses and things that are so tall.
Yeah.
And then so you really do have to figure out how you're going to trellis them, and they'll just keep going. And especially if you can get them through the summer, then they might be able to keep them going through the fall and winter.
Yeah.
And they will set fruit along that stem as they grow up.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Okay, so a lot of folks they really do want to do tomatoes. When they think about gardening, they want to do tomatoes. Is there any style that you'd recommend? One of the brand names or something that are easier? I do Romas, and I have a lot of luck with Romas.
Mm-hmm.
Romas don't seem to want much.
It seems like you're going to have consistent success with the smaller tomatoes,
Okay.
Aroma, and then something like Sun Gold, which has delicious flavor. It's a small kind of cherry type tomato, but you're going to have really good luck. Yellow pear tomatoes, again, prolific. You're going to get lots and lots of yellow pear tomatoes. If you want a little bit larger tomato, something like a Cherokee Purple is a really good variety to try, and it still has a lot of flavor. And you'll have mixed success the larger you go with the tomatoes. So some years it'll be really great and you'll get those big tomatoes. Other years you'll kind of struggle.
And it's all really determines on when the heat sets in.
Yeah, so you'll know when to tell us what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But tomatoes are tricky because, that blossom, that fruit doesn't want to set when it gets above a certain temperature.
Right, okay.
Then it gets harder for them to grow.
So are there other things like, and I cut you off, I apologize for that, but like zucchinis or cucumbers
squash,
or squash that we can do now?
Absolutely. That's when that soil's warm, squash is super easy. Don't be afraid to start from seed. They're going to grow best and be happiest if you can start those squash from seed. Anything that has a big seed is really pretty happy if you can just put it in the soil. You'll be shocked how quickly it will grow. And you're paying just a couple of dollars for a whole package of seeds instead of transplants are now pretty expensive and I look at that and it's just a sprouted seed for that zucchini or something. So buy a package of seeds, plant some squash, cucumbers are the same way, cantaloupes the same way, plant some seeds. They'll grow.
Now, here's the crazy thing. Angela grows vertically. She has these beautiful trellises, and I'm going to try this year, where you grow melons up these trellises, and you think to yourself, wait a minute, a melon can't hang on a trellis. It's going to fall off. How does that work? Do you have to support them maybe at some point?
Well, if you're growing watermelons, you definitely want to support the watermelons. But cantaloupes actually will support themselves. That vine, as it grows, it will support. But the trick is, once it's ripe, it will fall off.
Oh, okay. So it's ready to go.
You know it's ready to go if you see it on the ground. The trick is to go out there and pay attention to them and pick it just when it's really easy to come off the vine. You know that it's as ripe and sweet as it will be, and it's so delicious.
Well, and in one of your blogs, you said something along the lines of, when they grow on the ground for you, you got a little frustrated because the bugs got to them.
Yeah.
So that's why you decided to try to grow them up.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's never enough room, even in my 6-acre garden. There's never enough room. And so growing vertically gives you more space, but it's harder for the pests to get them. And if there are pests, you can spot them easier.
Yeah, that's crazy. Angela is a master gardener, and I want you to share a couple of things that you have with you. And also, aren't you doing a garden meetup sometime soon? Is there some kind of...
Yeah, so next month in March, we're doing a little bit of a seed swap up in Scottsdale.
Oh, okay.
So it should be fun.
Yeah, is it going to be a weekend deal so we can get the information on your website?
Absolutely. It'll be on my website. Okay. It's just a little seed swap. But it'll be fun because when you grow things, they produce seeds, and there's way more than I can use. And so it's fun to kind of share those with other people. So
I'm scared to use seeds that I get out of stuff because I think they won't work unless they're out of a package. That's weird, isn't it? Seeds work. Seeds are seeds.
Well, you can get seeds that are cross-pollinated and might get some funky fruit. So that's okay.
Yeah.
You can be, especially if you only have a short, not very much room to grow, you can be cautious about the seeds that you're using. But I think it's also fun to save your seeds because they become more adapted to the area that you're in. And so they're going to grow better every year. In fact, I brought you some of my favorite seeds.
Oh.
Okay, so Armenian cucumbers
Oh.
are actually a type of melon.
Okay.
But they taste like a cucumber.
Really?
And they grow all through our summer, where typical cucumbers really just like our warm seasons. And those are the tough crops to grow that just like the warm season. But Armenian cucumbers will grow all summer long. Painted Serpent, the best Armenian
Really?
cucumber. It's so good.
Can we grow these up?
Grow them vertically. You're going to have so many. And they're delicious.
Oh,
they're
I love that. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
Thank
and then
you.
here's another type of Armenian cucumber too.
Look
This
at
one's
me.
a round one.
Oh my God.
I think you'll love them, but they will grow all through the summer. So wait to plant those a little bit. They like it to be a little bit warmer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Grow some regular cucumbers this first season, and then get those Armenian cucumbers planted. But you'll love them. I have never met anyone who doesn't like the Painted Serpent.
Updates to follow, that's for sure. Okay, so you've got a calendar and you also have a planting guide. Tell us about that. They're fantastic.
Okay, so if you want to learn by month, this one will tell you everything to plant this month and which seeds to start indoors.
Right.
And so there's one for every month. It really, because timing is so crucial here, because we have these short seasons. We've got this really short window for warm season crops and what can grow. So timing is really important. So there's something for each month of the year, and this is the vegetable one. I also have one for flowers.
Oh, wow.
And then this guide
I like this guide. This is your new one.
This is my new one, and this is what I have wanted as a gardener. It's laid out by crop. So this is all the vegetables. So you can see the whole year for that crop. So when we're thinking about Armenian cucumbers, which is what we were just talking about, if you want to start seeds indoors, you can. But they do so well directly sown in the garden, so you don't need to. But this tells you when to plant transplants, when to plant seeds outside. It gives you a little bit of spacing information, how far apart to space it, and then telling you some tips here, like this is frost sensitive and you want to give it a trellis. So, and it'll grow in full sun. So it just goes through each crop, talks about the different times to plant, and it really makes planting your garden pretty easy.
It's pretty cool because you just look up the one thing that you want and boom, there it is. Oh, I can start here. This is what I've wanted as a gardener, so it was really a lot of fun to put this together, and I'm so glad I have it. There's a flower one coming out soon for this one. There you go. Well, that's on the website too, right? Growing in the garden, which you want to make sure. Now, here's the problem I have. Amongst many. But here's the problem I have gardening. After sprouts come up, Angela's like, this weather guy's kind of strange, is that I don't want to take a bunch of them out. And I know I need to. That's important, culling down the amount of little plants, right? How important is that?
It's crucial. So if you want that one plant to have the best opportunity to grow well, then you need to give it enough space. So they'll never grow as well if they're crowded. If there's 2 or 3 or 4 plants in one spot that's meant for one, then they're going to compete for sunlight, air, water, everything, and be overcrowded and just never really do as well. The earlier you can get in, once you see those seedlings emerge, the earlier you can get in and get the other ones out, you're going to see it just take off.
Okay. So you've got to not be shy about that.
No,
you're not killing a plant, because I'm killing a plant. I know it's bizarro.
Well, if you have other spaces that you can do it, you can get your trowel in there and kind of carefully, gently, and then just pull it up, and so you've got all those roots, and you can transplant it someplace else. But know that you're hurting all of them by leaving them in.
Right.
So no one's going to achieve their full potential if they're all together.
Right. Like I was planting carrots the other day, and it said once they come up, you're going to have to spread those out.
Yeah, and you can't replant the carrot transplants. But really go in with carrots, thin them once, come back, thin them again, and then you're going to have big, delicious, beautiful carrots. If you don't, you're going to pull them up, and they're just going to be skinny and not as good.
All right, I'll work on thinning. I think I can do it. Yeah, I do.
Or just plant, here's the tip for carrots. Use pelleted seeds and just plant 9 or 16 per square foot.
Right.
And then you don't have to come back in.
Yeah.
And
do the thinning.
Yeah, and do the thinning.
And one of the things that, again, I learned from Angela, and this goes into a whole nother realm of gardening, which I'm now into, but, the first things first, you can start this first backyard garden and water it by hand, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
You don't have to have irrigation systems or anything like that. You can water it by hand, right?
Yeah, watering's the trickiest thing to get right. I would say you can water by hand, but be consistent with your watering, because with plants, it's all about trying not to stress them out.
Right.
When plants are stressed, somehow it sends out signals to bugs and pests, and they struggle. So if we can keep our plants stress-free, and regular watering helps them be stress-free. So if you're watering by hand, that's fine.
Right.
But try and pay attention to that watering and give them deep, consistent watering.
Yeah. And there are ways for under $20 you can hook up a really quick to your outdoor faucet drip system, and it's not that hard. But I'm to the point where I'm buying these grids and I'm hooking them up, and it's automated. It's not automated. It's like on a timer, and
They're
I'm
a lot of fun.
they are a lot of fun. But you're right. The hardest part is sometimes you set it and it's like, well, I think it's getting too much water.
Yeah.
And then you have to set it back.
Yeah.
And then it's also yearly. During the year, it changes how much water it needs.
Well, as the weather changes, the water needs are going to change. So right now, mine are off because we've had lots of rain.
Yeah.
I don't know if I watered more than once or twice in the last month.
Yeah.
Because we've had pretty consistent water, and the days are shorter.
Yeah.
The nights are cooler. The water needs are much, much less.
Right.
So as we start heating up, the days get longer. You're almost doing it by hand, man. Even though you could put it automatically to have it go on,
Right.
It's really a question of monitoring the soil and saying, okay, when I stick my finger in, if it's coming out with soil on it,
Right.
I don't need to water.
Right.
But okay, it looks like it's dry now. It's time for me to water.
Right.
And so kind of those transition months, and then into the summer, you can probably be guaranteed that whatever schedule that is, whether it's every other day, every third day, hopefully not every day, but then you can have that on with consistent water.
Yeah, you taught me that, again, you taught me, reading your blogs, because I was in the summer and I was doing every day, boom, every 24 hours, and it just seemed like there was too much. So I had to cut it back.
Yeah, you want to teach your plants to be, to have those roots develop and grow deeper, because that's where the cooler soil is. If and they're going to have water. If you water deeper, they're going to be okay. If we're giving them little bits of water a lot, those roots are going to stay at the surface, and then it's going to be more stressful for them because it's not as cool. They dry out quicker. Lots of reasons.
So now on your 6-acre property, and that's going to be the joke, right? Now, she has a regular sized lot in case you're just joining us. Have you found, because I have, but I'm going to ask you, have you found areas where certain plants just love, and you're going to be like, that's where I'm growing these forever because they work perfectly there?
It would be nice to do that, but it's important to kind of rotate.
Oh, see, here you go with a hard part. Now I got to rotate.
It is because if you plant, say, squash is a good example.
Yeah.
If you plant squash in one spot over and over, what's going to come?
I don't know.
Squash bugs.
Oh, squash bugs.
Squash bugs will come, and you're going to make it easy on them because they're not going to have to go far. But if you rotate where you plant, and you're planting a variety of herbs and flowers and different things with them, then they're going to have a little bit harder time. Those pests and diseases won't already be in the soil.
Oh, okay. So that's a good idea. And also, I think that when you're starting, in the spring, as you folks are getting ready for, to do your elevated gardens and whatnot, it's okay to amend the soil, to change the soil, to add to the soil, to get some more stuff in there. I've been doing that because the soil needs to get a little kick every once in a while, right?
Right. So native soil is excellent for growing a lot of our native plants,
right,
and even some of the fruit trees and things like that. But when we're growing vegetables,
right,
especially because we have such short growing seasons, we're asking a lot of them in a short amount of time. So we want to give them the best soil possible.
Yeah.
So that's really where we're amending. And the best thing you can do is add organic matter, compost. If you can learn how to compost or buy compost, add that to the top of the soil. That's going to feed the soil, and then the soil will feed your plants.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's for sure. All right, so here's the thing I want to do this summer, and Angela's told me on the phone, it's a ridiculous idea. But so you and I both know that the Native Americans grew monsoon corn here, and it worked somehow. They waited for the monsoon rains, and they got corn. Now, corn isn't a super great plant for us to grow in our backyards because of the space requirements, and you don't get a big harvest. But if just for the yucks of it, I want to grow some native corn in my backyard, could I do that this year and wait for the monsoon rains and get it done and get some corn?
Sure. So there's 2 planting windows for corn.
Okay.
We've got right now it's corn again is that warm season crop.
Okay.
So we've got this spring. We can look on here and see exactly, but we've got our spring. And then we've got our monsoon when we get that moisture in the air, right? Whenever there's that little bit more humidity, which is late July or August. When's it going to be this year?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, you'll know when we get that monsoon.
Yeah, when we get closer.
When we get closer, that would be the time for that second planting window. Okay. Because they do like it nice and warm, but not hot.
Yeah, and even some of the native beans and the temporaries and stuff. Now, I have grown those with some success during the monsoon hot season, and those plants seem to thrive.
They absolutely love it. The corn, again, is trickier, but the tepary beans and black-eyed peas, asparagus beans, sweet potatoes, okra, all of those crops, they will thrive. There are some crops that like that hot season. It's just a matter of getting them going at that time.
And also your yard too. You have to check. You told me this. You have to check out your yard. Where's the shade? Where's there not shade? Where can you get full sun, partial? And it changes throughout the year.
Right. And I had some pretty severe frost events at my house, and it was really interesting for me. I lost a lot of plants, but I was less sad than intrigued by which parts of my yard were colder and which parts, are warmer. And so it was really interesting for me even now to walk around and see the effects of that cold weather. And so I can see in my yard where are the cold spots, especially during the winter.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's amazing that that there are microclimates in your backyard. There really are. One part of your yard could be freezing, the other part's not going to be impacting anything at all. So it is kind of a cool thing. All right, let's review. What kind of plants do we want to get in the ground as we're approaching warm season? What are our top 3 or 4?
Top 3 or 4, I would say tomatoes. I mean, if you're a tomato person, now's the time to plant tomatoes. Peppers are another one. Get those going so those plants can be established before it gets hot. And if you beans and squash, another one, and cucumbers.
Okay, that sounds good. So you don't mind if we have you back in here before hot season, do you? We're gonna do. Here's what we want to do. I'm gonna challenge us both to have a monsoon area that doesn't get any extra moisture, and we're gonna see if we can grow some monsoon plants there. What do you say?
I say we got to make sure there's a basin that's going to collect some rainwater.
I agree.
So we want to make sure that we've got some rainwater.
Yeah.
And
maybe an Ola or 2, which would, but maybe.
An Ola is a good idea.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I think that's, it really is important to work within the climate that we're in and to not pretend we live somewhere else.
Yeah.
There are so many things that grow well here.
Yeah.
Lean into those and grow those crops.
Yeah, so we'll try to do that there, and we'll have it back in for hot summer crops. And again, folks, the website is Growing in the Garden. There's a YouTube channel that's fantastic. You're fantastic.
Thank you.
You get a newsletter that's fantastic. I would invite you to check out Angela Judd's stuff online and listen to the stuff that she has to say, because it's really stuff. Well, you're a master gardener, first of all. She's a master gardener. I'm not even a master weatherman. She's a master gardener. But it's stuff that you've learned collectively from other gardeners, and it's that kind of knowledge that really is very interesting to me.
Yeah, and I love seeing you so excited about gardening. I hope everyone's as excited as you are.
Oh, it's the best thing ever. Yeah, I love it. And you know that I'll be bringing in Channel 3 folks, I'll be bringing in some stuff in the not too distant future.
You're going to have painted serpent Armenian
cucumbers.
Oh,
I can't wait.
You're going to have so many to share, and they are so good.
All right, I can't wait. That's for sure. Thank you, Angela. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, everybody.
This is Beyond the Green Screen, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.